All right, good evening, everyone. It's 6:03, so we're going to get started. So I want to welcome everybody this evening to our May 27th general meeting. I'm going to call the meeting to order. We have the attendance, moment of silence, acceptance of the agenda, rules of order, follow-up from the general meeting of April 29th. We have an update on the Fibre to the Home project. We'll provide an update on the Cannabis working group. As well, we'll provide an update on the current land claims, status of land claims. Provide an update on we'll receive an update from the Akwesasne Waterways Committee. We'll provide an update on behalf of the Department of Health. We have an update on the Council of Elders, and then we have a resolution accepting some meeting minutes from April 29th that we'll need to read for the record. So that is the agenda for this evening. If I could have a motion to accept that agenda, moved by Julie, second by Teresa. All in favor? All right, thank you. So just as a matter of record, Chief Joel Azor and Chief Tim Thompson will be joining us this evening. They're just running a few minutes late, but they will log on to the system when they in a few moments shortly when they arrive. So this evening, our agenda has been read into the record. I do want to acknowledge that we are hosting this evening's general meeting on the Zoom platform. As you know, we continue to deal with the global pandemic and that has affected our community and including the globe and the world that we live in. So unfortunately, due to the continued health precautions, we are not able to gather in person and hold meetings in person. So we are using the Zoom system this evening. So I do want to welcome all of you and thank you for joining us this evening. Generally, before when we had in-person community meetings, we would observe a moment of silence. And if there was a death that occurred in one of the districts where the general meeting would be occurring, we would relocate the general meeting to another district. But given that we are online, we don't cancel the location and relocate. But we do want to pay tribute to those that have passed since our last general meeting of April 29th. So in recognition of those members that we have lost and their families who have been grieving, I'll ask for a moment of silence now to acknowledge them. Thank you very much. And on behalf of myself and council, we extend all of our deepest condolences to all those affected by loss in the last month. And in fact, over the last several months since the global pandemic has started, it's been extremely difficult for us to console one another and share our condolences, having to do that sometimes in virtual forms or in phone forms over the phone, and not being able to hug one another has been extremely difficult for all of us. So we extend our condolences in our thoughts and prayers. So this evening, we'll proceed with our meeting. It's scheduled for 6 p.m., which we have started. We'll go till about 8 p.m., at which time we will take a look at where we are at in the agenda. And based on the discussion, make a determination if the meeting will continue to proceed past 8 p.m. or if we'll reschedule for another time. Personal issues will not be dealt with in this forum. So we do consider while we are on Zoom, we still consider this a public forum. These meetings are being recorded. The video is being recorded and is uploaded and shared at a later date to our community who is not able to join us. So if there are items that individuals want to deal with that are of a personal nature, we would please ask that you raise your hand and asked to address myself as the chair, and what we'll do is we'll receive your contact information, and we'll speak one-on-one tomorrow or at a time that's agreeable to you to talk about that issue. It will not be discussed in this forum as we consider this public. As we go through this evening's presentations and updates, we ask that you please keep your questions relevant to the presentation that we are doing. There is a function on the Zoom here to raise your hand, or we ask that you unmute and please give an indication that you would like to ask a question. I will take a list of names of people who want to ask a question, and then we'll go through them as either as the questions come in or after the presentation is done. And we ask that everybody please, be respectful of one another, and keep your comments to the presentation that is happening, and relevant. Your comments and questions relevant to the point that we're discussing. If in any time the meeting does or individuals get disrespectful, we do have the ability to mute people or remove them from this room, and we will do that if individuals are not being respectful to other community members on the Zoom platform, or myself, or members of council. We ask that everybody please remain respectful. This is a forum that we are here to receive information and dialogue with the community, not a forum that we will use to be negative or disrespectful to each other. As well, if there's any items that we can't answer or don't have an answer to, or we need to follow up on, we will make a list of those items and report them back at the following general meeting, or we can report them back in person sooner if the community member wishes. But we will make a list of those what we call follow-up action items, and we will report them back the following month to everybody watching or listening in this evening. So those of you that may be on the phone, I don't see any, but it's *6 to unmute yourself, and give an indication that you want to ask a question or make a comment. So that is the rules of order for this evening's general meeting. Again, this is the meeting of April 27th, our monthly general meeting for the Mohawk Council of Akwesasne. So this evening we have a series of presentations that will provide as updates to the community. We will take questions in relations to them. So the first one, I do have the MCA Communications Unit is helping me with the PowerPoints. Is going to be the Fibre to the Home project. So I will ask that the PowerPoint for the Fibre to the Home be brought up. Those of you that will be speaking to it, please indicate that you want the slide, next slide, by saying next slide to Wahesa, who is helping us, and she will change that for us. So I do believe we're joined by the Director of Economic Development, Kylie Tarbell, who is joined with Rhonda Adams, the Manager for Information Services here at the Mohawk Council, who are leading this Fibre to the Home project. So I will turn it over to one of you two ladies to give us an update on this.
Thank you, Grand Chief. Just to reiterate, I'm Kylie Tarbell. I'm the Director of Economic Development, and joining me is Rhonda Adams, the Manager of Information Services. So Waheso, next slide, please. Yep, thank you. So just a quick overview, update of where we're standing. So we currently are at 100% Mohawk workforce content. We want to express our appreciation with our partners. So we're working with DIHE, Water and Wastewater, and also the environment, and also Akwesasne Career and Employment Support Services. So with the support of Access, we have been able to do some capacity development for Akwesasne Lono to continue our strengthened workforce. So we are scheduled for an additional certification training for the month of June for an additional 10 Akwesasne Lono to be trained and certified in fiber optics technician splicing, as well as some health and safety training. We are continuing a positive working relationship with Ontario East, who is our project technical lead. We are also focusing on local procurement. So we are still working with DTC Trucking, and as well as Northern Landscapes for our cleanup. We're also still taking pre-registrations for the District of Akwesasne, as well as Ganadaga at fttH@akwesasne.ca. Next slide, please. So just to give an update on Akwesasne. So the directional drilling is 100% complete. That is the conduit, orange conduit that you've seen sticking out of the ground. So that is officially complete. We have approximately 85% of SNI residents and businesses pre-registered. We also have 95% of the pedestals installed. Those are the green boxes, as well as 50% of the vaults installed, which is another type of protective equipment. We are going to be starting the fiber cable installation next week. We are first starting running the cable through the conduit. And then from there, we will be connecting the fiber cables to every individual home who registered with us. Cleanup and landscaping is underway. I just wanted to extend a little bit more information. We have a few summer students starting with us in the upcoming weeks. They're going to be assisting us with cleanup. So for the areas where the drilling equipment, if they were on your property, as well as where the PEDs and vaults are being installed, we did make a little bit of a mess. So we will be going through with shovels, flattening it out, including more topsoil and some grass seed. Next slide, please. Rhonda, do you want to discuss the equipment?
So I'll just, can you guys hear me? So on this screen, we have on the left is an example of a vault. So that's flat. It's put in the ground and it's flat with the ground. On the right, we have a pedestal. They're mainly all around SNI right now. The reason for the pedestals in SNI is because we're low there in marshlands and there's a lot of flooding. So if we were implementing the vaults in the ground, we'd get too much situations where the equipment could get frozen in the ground and we could end up with winters we don't have internet. So those are just some examples. Next slide. A little update on Ganadago. Due to the success of GSNINet and the wholesale costs that we were able to obtain at the time, we were able to also include equipment for Ganadago. We were able to include additional drilling for the entire district. We were able to get some extra vaults and pedestals for that location too. So at this point in time, we have the directional drilling complete, which is all the way through St. Regis. We also have that river crossing from SNI to St. Regis. We have a few vaults installed in St. Regis. However, we are awaiting delivery of more vaults that we have ordered. We're looking at the month of June to complete the vault installation. St. Regis will have mainly vaults installed, not so many pedestals, just because it's a really tight area and we're looking at having most of everything put into the ground over there. We're anticipating installing the fiber cables in that district in the month of July. And again, same as SNI, once we get our summer students enrolled, we'll be going around and doing the cleanup and landscaping in that district. Next slide, please. So just another example, Ganadago, the vaults that are at grade with the ground, those are mainly what you'll see around Ganadago. Right now we have one installed across the street from Admin 4 and also across the street from Access. And we just thought that they needed to be installed immediately when we were doing the work. There's also one on the corner, I believe, on Johnson Road. Next slide. This is the example of the home across the road near the Access buildings. This is, if you can see on the right-hand side, there's like a big box with our employee. He's standing there next to it. So that box gets placed into the ground. Those orange pipes get placed within the box. So that'll house our fiber splicing connections. And for future maintenance of the fiber, our employees will be accessing it by unscrewing the tops. Next slide. Just so everyone is aware, I do know that when we originally started this project, we were shooting for June to be lighting up SNI. We are still working to the best of our abilities to be turning up SNI. However, our goal is to turn up both Ganadago and Akwesasne before the upcoming academic school year. Right now, what's happening is when we order stuff, the shipping seems to be taking longer than we had anticipated. So we are encountering a few issues. Next slide. So our current status is right now we're experiencing potential delay in delivery of additional equipment required. A lot of things seem to be back ordered due to overwhelming requests for high-speed internet internationally. So with the COVID-19 pandemic and governments offering more funding to those areas, our suppliers are getting supplies short in hand. We're working on the overall grant, which includes all of the northern portion of Akwesasne. We're trying to get additional orders processed so that we can get into the queue, because the way IT and technical things seem to be this day is when we order something, that's at the point that it's getting manufactured overseas. Current status on Gawanoge, we're still awaiting the contribution agreement authorization. We're getting very close. Directional drilling will happen as soon as we have that contribution agreement signed, and we'll be doing announcements for pre-registration for the Cornwall Island Gawanoge portion. Next slide. One thing to note to the community is internet service providers. At this point in time, we have Ontario East. The enrollment that we're asking people to email FTTH to get signed up means that we will make a connection to your household. If you're going to be using Ontario East as your internet service provider, then you'll have to work with Ontario East in making sure that you're getting signed up for their services. They don't want you to call Bell just yet and cancel any of your services. I do know some people are getting really frustrated where it barely works for them in the district of Sny. They're like, well, I'll turn it off now. But if you could just hang on and wait until we're lighting things up so that you shouldn't lose your phone number for some people who may have had that phone number all their life. We are also aware that Ontario East will be seeking more Akwesasne for employment to assist in getting people registered for Ontario East Internet. And we are also still looking for additional ISPs, as this network will be an open access network. So it's not going to be limited to just one ISP that's available on it. We are reaching out to other internet service providers to see if they would like to host and serve internet throughout our open access network. Next slide. So we're still accepting registrations for mainly Ganadago and Akwesasne. We do have a really high percentage of Akwesasne residents. Ganadago doesn't seem to have that high of a percentage of registered community members. If you can reach out to your neighbors or family and make sure that they're emailing FTTH at Akwesasne. We did send out a mailer in St. Regis, however, it didn't seem to be very well propagated. So we'll be looking into other ways to communicate with Ganadago in the future. We ask that you include your name, your civic address, and a contact phone number. And I think that's the last slide. Okay, thank you.
Thank Thank you very much, Kylie and Rhonda, for providing us with an update on the Fibre to the Home project. Are there any questions from community or council in relation to this presentation? If I can just get you to take the, thank you. Go ahead, Connie.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Rhonda and Kylie, for the presentation, quite informative. I do have a question with regards to Ontario East and the transition if a member should decide to go from Bell to Ontario East. Are they starting to reach out to community members to at least let us know what they have to offer as far as services from Ontario East, as a competitive to Bell and that kind of stuff?
Oh, Rod's on mute. Yeah, so what they intend on doing, similar to what we did, is they're going to be doing a mail out. So they're establishing right now a personalized phone number for Akwesasne residents who are going to potentially, basically like a hotline number specifically just for Akwesasne residents. So once they have that number established, they'll do a flyer and it'll be like a little informational pricing, and all the FYI.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Kylie. Cheryl, we'll go to you.
Okay, am I unmuted now?
Yes, you are. You are now.
Okay, my question is, Kylie, I have a question about the orange stuff that they drilled, right? Through the village. Is there a set rate if you want that directly to your home, like a per foot or anything like that? Underground, I guess I would use the term for your connection.
Yeah, so what we're looking at instead of doing the conduit is homeowners, again, and it's included with the grant, is we would trench it. So it wouldn't be placed in a conduit in that aspect, because that's for a certain feet/meters underground. So to connect, if you wanted to go underground, it would just be trenched.
Okay, I see. And then that's included, so the homeowner wouldn't have to pay.
That is correct.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. And thank you for bringing that up because we haven't actually addressed that. So thank you, Cheryl.
All right.
Thank you. Are there any questions in relation to the Fibre to the Home? All right. Well, thank you very much to you two ladies for providing with us an update on that project. Very exciting project that's been underway for a number of months now. Clearly, it's a service that is needed, especially since we're all dealing with this pandemic, and many are working from home and children are schooling from home. So we completely rely on internet and the speed and good connectivity at this point. So thank you for that update. All right, now we're going to turn to the Cannabis Working Group. I'll ask that the presentation for the cannabis update please be brought up. I will, Kylie, are you starting off this presentation as well?
Yes.
All right, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Grand Chief. Again, Kylie Tarbell, Director of Economic Development, and I'm going to be presenting on behalf of the Cannabis Working Task Group to give the community an update of what we've been up to since 2018. So next slide, please. So the Cannabis Working Task Group members include administration, so economic development, myself, and Mark Martin, who is our compliance officer. Mohawk government, we have Chief Vanessa Adams, Chief Carolyn Francis, Chief Connie Lazor, Chief Edward Roundpoint, and we are supported with legal advisor of Nathan Richards. Next slide, please. So just to give you some background information and timeline of what we've been up to and our progress. So in 2018, a survey was distributed for community engagement in regards to the cannabis law enactment. It was identified that, the community was in support of establishing a cannabis law. Therefore, the Akwesasne interim cannabis regulation was passed October 1st, 2018. And through that interim cannabis regulation, the Cannabis Working Task Group was created. In 2019, we worked together in developing and finalizing the application, which is available to community now. We provided the application to the public for Akwesasne on August 6, 2019. We hosted, economic development hosted one informational session per district on August 7th, 8th, and 9th. Following that, we received, the Office of Economic Development, we received 59 applications, or excuse me, we distributed 59 applications. And following that, 15 applications were received back for review. In 2020, 24 applications were distributed, 0 were received. Again, during COVID-19, it disrupted our routine administrative processes. So we transitioned, and the working task group continued to meet via Zoom to review applications and work on issuing licenses. And in 2020, the working task group also began review of phase 1 draft cannabis law. This year in 2021, 16 applications were distributed. 4 applications were received back for review, and the working task group submitted comments on the phase 1 draft cannabis law to the Justice Department. Next slide, please. So our review status, just to break it down. So in 2019, we had 3 applicants who submitted their applications to us. 3 did not qualify. 1 was in the 150 feet of the of an MCA facility. 1 was not in good standing, and 1 did not respond 120 plus days. We have 1 applicant per the request requested to put their application on hold, and 1 applicant withdrew. In 2020, again, we didn't process any, or we didn't receive any applications or any supporting documentation. We also issued 7 licenses, 3 cultivators, and 4 retailers. In 2021, 2 applications are currently under review. 1 application is pending an inspection. 2 applications are pending agreements. And 2 licenses were issued, 1 cultivator and 1 retailer. Next slide, please. So this is a breakdown of our licensing process, the inner lookings of the working task group. So the first step is, of course, picking up an application from the Economic Development Office. And we do require your information because we like to provide your CRC or your criminal reference check letter for AMPS. So that way, in the event after reviewing the application, you want to move forward, you don't have to keep coming back and seeking additional paperwork. We try to put a complete package together for you. So following that, you drop off your application and supporting documents to Economic Development Office. The applicant and the compliance officer review an acknowledgement form to assure all required documents are submitted. So there are some required documents. We developed an acknowledgement form. So when you come in to sit with a compliance officer, he check marks all of the documents to make sure everything is there. The last thing that we do is we accept the application fee of $2,000 through either a bank draft or a money order. So in the event when you're going through the acknowledgement form and you forgot your copy of your status card or your business plan, this gives you an opportunity to, leave without losing or, your $2,000, and you get to return back to the office. We try to ensure that the packages are complete once they're submitted. So once everything is submitted, the compliance officer undergoes some due diligence. So he does membership confirmation and good standing inquiry. We also have established our own internal filing system to ensure confidentiality. So none of our files in the office have anyone's name or anything on them. Everyone's issued a file number. So upon successful completion of due diligence, all documents are scanned and emailed to the working task group for review. In the event of not in good standing or not a member, a letter is issued to an applicant and they have 30 days to rectify the issue. So step 4, the working task group, we meet bi-weekly for review of all applications. In the event of additional information is required, letters are sent to each applicant. The applicants have 30 days to respond. They also have the option of requesting an extension for additional time to submit information. So for example, if there's inconsistent information in the business plan, or if they incorrectly completed out the application, we give them an opportunity to rectify and make changes. Once the information is resubmitted, compliance officer rescans and emails the documents to the working task group for additional review. This can occur as many times as necessary. So we do, go through this process more than once with one applicant. Step 5, once review is satisfactory, the applicant is notified for inspection of facility. So the inspection is to ensure the facility is laid out as indicated on the floor plan submitted. Once inspection is complete, the assessment is sent to the working task group for review. It is a pass-fail guideline. So the floor plan and location is as indicated, or floor plan and or location are not as indicated. Step 6, once inspection is satisfactory, the applicant is notified of the final step, which is the agreement. Grant Chief notifies the applicant to schedule a meeting to review the agreement. Once agreement is finalized, an MCR is completed and Grant Chief signs agreement and the licensing certificate. ECDA receives the approved MCR and agreement, and administrative compliance begins to ensure public safety and agreement regulatory guidelines. Next slide, please. So the ECDA compliance process. So the compliance officer, once we receive the MCR and the signed agreement, the compliance officer issues a licensing acknowledgement sticker for storefront. So it's a MCA branded sticker with their identified number. He also reviews the individual agreements to ensure regulatory guidelines are being met. So things that we continuously look for. So operations, the address, hours of operations, and approved suppliers and products. Safety, everyone is required to have cameras, so we ensure that the cameras are on and working, that they request identification, that there's indoor signage. So for example, no one under the age of 18 for use in northern portion of Akwesasne, as well as labeling on products. The transactions, so we do oversee the amount of grams sold per transaction. Packaging, child resistant packaging, labeling, no promotions. And then of course the report submissions. So we do receive point of sale monthly reports from every licensee, as well as the approved suppliers and products. Collecting the monthly social responsibility fee, which is 25 cents per gram sold. We work closely with approved licensees to encourage and promote good business practices. We assist in due diligence checks on suppliers, and we conduct administrative assessments on licensees when/if necessary to ensure agreement licensing compliance. Next slide, please. So here's approved cannabis retailers and cultivators on Gawinoge. We have Green Chief Naturals Cannabis Dispensary. We have 7 Leaf, Happy Days, Bright Sky Growers, Island Flower Company, and the Herbalist Cannabis Dispensary. Next slide, please. Same thing, approved cannabis retailers and cultivators for Ganadaga. We have Green Reserve Dispensary, Butters Quick Stop Dispensary, and Green Reserve Farms. Next slide. So this is an overview of the application fees we have collected. So every application is the fee of $2,000. So in 2019, 2020, so April 1st to March 31st, our fiscal year, we received $30,000. In 2020 to 2021, we received $6,000. And this current fiscal year, we received $2,000. So in total, over the 3 fiscal years, we have received $38,000. Next slide, please. So the social responsibility fee in regards to the retail. So again, just to, per the interim cannabis regulation, the fee is 25 cents per gram sold. So even though we issued our first licenses as 2019, 2020, no one was operational during that time frame, so no fees were collected. April 1st to March 31st of 2020, 2021, we received $54,461.82. And the current fiscal of 21, 22, up to date, since we're still in May, this is only accounted for the month of April. We received $18,030.90 for a total of $72,492.72. Next slide, please. For cultivation, because this is a long process, you know, the cultivators are still working on their businesses and getting established. It is the same social responsibility fee, 25 cents per gram sold. So again, we just collected our first cultivation fee of $204. Next slide, please. So just to give you an overview in regards to the total fees collected. So in total, the application fees, again, over 3 fiscal years is $40,000. Excuse me, it should be 38,000. Sorry, it's 38. That's an error I made. Social responsibility fee, $72,492.72. Social responsibility fee for cultivators is $204. So the total, so actually it's $110,696.72. Again, over the span of 3 fiscal years. So the current fee supports administrative operations. So that's the active compliance officer salary and some administrative costs. So the printing, mailouts, and materials needed for the assessments when Mark does the inspections. So the carryover fees collected with the surplus is to be determined for usage. The cannabis law can establish needs, and for example, it could be for entrepreneur support, training, capacity development. Next slide, please. So just to give a breakdown, we are currently working on the draft cannabis law. So just to, again, give a timeline. The Akwesasne Legislative Commission worked on the draft Akwesasne cannabis law for enactment process. Legislative development halted due to COVID-19, and work by the commission was stopped due to the declaration of state of emergency. August 2020, council mandated the working task group and legal advisor, Nathan Richards, with the support of the Justice Department to complete the draft legislation. The working task group reviewed and revised the phase 1 draft, and comments were submitted to Justice April of 2021. Justice Department will be conducting a legal review of the phase 1 draft. Upon completion of legal review, an MCR will be submitted to council for acceptance of the law in principle. Once accepted, the draft law in principle will be printed and bulk mailing will be done for community review and comment. Next slide, please. Okay, that is it. There are any questions in regards to the Cannabis Working Task Group?
All right, thank you very much, Kylie, for that overview of the process and a bit of where we started and where we are at now, and as well as where we are going. Are there any questions for Kylie or members of the Working Task Group in relation to the presentation?
I don't know how to find the raise hand button.
It's fine, go ahead.
It's Vincinet. The cultivators, how many of those do we have?
You're muted, Kylie.
Okay, 1 second, wait, I'm counting on my fingers. We have 9 total licensees. 4, we have 4 current cultivators.
And those don't include the 9 retailers, right?
No, it's 9 licensees total, Vincinet, 4 cultivators and 5 retailers.
Okay, so just help me out. 4 cultivators, we don't have any in SNI, retailers or cultivators, correct?
That is correct.
And in Ganadago, do we have cultivating going on there?
We do have 1 licensee who is cultivating. It's a slow process, but yes, we do have 1 licensee in Ganadago for cultivation.
So in Ganadago, we have 1 cultivator and 2 retailers, correct?
That is correct.
And then in Goenoge, we have 3 cultivators and 3 retailers.
That is correct.
Okay. As economic development, the whole picture, do you have any idea on what the sales are altogether in Akwesasne? How much, do you have any idea of that from the retailers?
So if in regards, like, we know the amount of grams that have been sold because we do see the point of sales system. But as far as the revenue that each individual is making, no, we're not asking for that aspect. We just look at the number of grams sold per transaction, because per the interim cannabis regulation is 30 grams. We inspect more, where's the product coming from, ensuring it matches with their supplier. You know, it's an approved product to be sold. You know, so in that aspect, like, we have a total amount of grams sold.
Which is how much?
I have a chart in my email. So total over the last 3 years, it's Vincinet, if you can just give me 1 second, I have that data. I was gonna put it in the presentation. I just didn't think anyone would care. Like, it wouldn't have been of interest. So give me 1 second.
I think it's of interest to the community. If our economic development program is going to be helping a certain sector to get off the ground and to be successful, I think we want to know, like, how successful they are being, you know, and
yeah.
at some point to have an idea on how, in addition to the social responsibility fee, how they are giving back to the community.
Yeah, so, okay, Vincinet, so just to give you a summary, so for flour, we have sold 140,000 grams. Solids, we have, well, the licensees have sold over 9,000 grams of solids, non-solids, over 1,000 grams, solid concentrates, 38,000 grams. So, there's been a significant amount of total cannabis through the licensees that have been distributed. So 40. So, I mean, we're close to about 40, 50, almost 200,000 grams that have been sold.
Okay, thank you for that. And again, it doesn't have it in the presentation. This material, as we have always done, will be made available tomorrow to you. It'll be on our website. Some of it already is. Some of it came in late that we weren't able to get it up on the site earlier, but this is on there. The 72,000, as we've articulated, is that there are a fee structure of about 25 cents per gram. So it doesn't translate directly for flower exactly, because there are some mathematical equations in there for calculations for other products, but it still converts to 25 cents. So the 72,000 into 25 cents is about approximate right now. So, Cheryl, I see you have your hand up. We'll go to you.
Okay, I think I'm learning how to do this. Am I unmuted?
You are.
Okay, my question is on traffic flow. Who is studying the traffic flow in each district to where these shops are set up? And more importantly, the village, based on, I know the stop signs went up. I've seen people still running that stop sign. It'll probably take a while, but who is going to be studying the traffic flow as there's potential for these businesses to increase in numbers in our districts?
As of right now, there is no study happening. I mean, obviously, these are factors that are taken into consideration. There's a number of factors being considered. I know that the committee has gone back and forth about if there's a cap on the number of licenses given. I will say that, I mean, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, now that New York State has announced that they're, introducing a regulatory regime where it's no longer going to be prohibited. The tribe has announced that they're introducing a legislative framework. Again, unfortunately or fortunately, the traffic into other parts of the community will, unfortunately diminish. So, I mean, we're going to continue to monitor that, but there is no study being done per se on the traffic flow. Are there any other questions in relation to this presentation?
So Grand Chief, just really quick, I just did some math. So for Vinsonet, to date, our licensees have sold essentially 278,000 grams worth of cannabis. So to answer kind of the amount of cannabis being sold.
Thank you, Kylie. Grand Chief, you had brought up quickly that the committee or somebody is looking at, and it was a question that was asked at the SNI district meeting as well, about how many about the number of licenses we're looking at giving up, selling licenses that we're going to sell in from a population of our size, and like how does it compare to let's say, I know there was a great big like draft for people to have licenses in Ontario when it first came out, right? And like people like groups were vying to get those different licenses, similar to what it sounds like Kylie and her group has set up. But how many are we actually looking at licensing already? It seems like quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. Perhaps maybe Edward, I know that we've talked about this before. Could you respond a bit to that on how the committee's deliberations have went on how many licenses should be or could be issued? No, we're not hearing you for some reason. You are unmuted, but we're not hearing you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. All right. So yes, Grand Chief. So Vinsonet, currently the Cannabis Working Task Group has been in the most past several meetings. It's been on our discussion on establishing a cap on retailers in the 3 districts. So actually we have a meeting tomorrow. Every two weeks on a Friday we meet and discuss. So this has been one of the tasks that we've been addressing currently. So we're just putting a rough draft together on how that's going to look, but it is being looked at currently. I hope that answers your question.
It really it doesn't answer the question, but at least you have a process outlined to be able to answer the question, and
Yeah.
but what do you think, Edward, as far as just like, in my opinion, we're about there, you know, as far as the number of licenses we want to put out there. And the other thing too, I had seen on Kylie's, one of the pages of your presentation, Kylie, I had seen that there was something, like maybe it's on the packaging or something, some signage, something in that part of your presentation that said that it's to be consumed in the northern portion of Akwesasne. Am I correct in, or like, I don't know, the pages kind of went through fast.
Oh, I'm sorry, Vincent. Yes, so essentially the storefronts do have signage, just advising the consumers that it's to only be consumed in, the northern portion, just because, again, like using Ganadago as an example, to not transfer it in transit through the southern portion of Akwesasne, because that's, it's not, the United States federally hasn't acknowledged cannabis. So therefore it is, not legal to do so.
And to answer the first part, Vincent, so yeah, when this licensing regime for cannabis had begun, one of the things the task group had taken on was the monitoring of the economics of this cannabis industry in Akwesasne. And one of the things we did pay attention to was the point at which the applications that were going to be picked up through ECDEV was going to start to plateau. And we have seen that. And then, that's when we had began the discussion on looking at setting the limit of amount of dispensaries in each district, and then taking into consideration how some of them, all based on their business plans, how they were going to be able to, I guess, succeed or at least try to survive in this business industry. So we took that into consideration in regards to setting a cap or a limit in each district, because we want to ensure if a business does not work, then if one doesn't succeed, then that limit on rates will open up again another application. So any future applications that get put in, and let's say there's a cap rate set in every district, those applications will be put into a queue that just sit and waiting until, and there's no real time frame on it, because it's all based on how the businesses are going to succeed or not.
So it's almost like an ongoing, or like open enrollment into that business, right?
Yes, that's correct. But we're not going to continue licensing and like flooding every district with a tremendous amount of dispensary. That doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't benefit each business, because then it only becomes saturated with a limited amount of consumers in each district.
Right.
So that's kind of, these are the things, the points that we're taking into consideration on how we set the limits on it.
Thank you for that. I just had one more, so I don't want to. The other thing that came up in the presentation on the slides was something about a criminal records check, that each applicant or licensee had passed a criminal reference check. Yes, no? Did I pick that up wrong?
No, so part of the application is, so if a community member wants to move forward with an application, we do request a criminal reference check. However, it doesn't have, to date, it hasn't had, it's just kind of like transparency. We want to know, ensure who we're working with, because essentially, once they become a licensee, it's a long-standing relationship between them and economic development. So we just want transparency.
So the criminal reference check wasn't to exclude anybody. It was just to know what is in the criminal record if they had one.
That is correct.
What happens if a licensee has, like, I don't know what our bar is as a community then. What is acceptable type of crime that a licensee could commit that would say, no, you're out of, we are no, this, our community doesn't want to deal with that kind of a licensee. Have you guys discussed that at all?
Yes and no. To date, per the applicants that we received, even those who aren't licensed, you know, they have issued their criminal reference checks. Not everyone has a clean record. But those who did not have a clean record, they also supplied a letter of support from themselves stating, you know, the incident that happened, basically a character letter, you know, and it's been taken under advisement.
A character letter from themselves.
Yes, just discussing like the incident, what happened, you know, when it happened, and, you know, in that context. But to date, we haven't dealt with a community member who had a serious conviction. So, you know, I can't personally speak on what the bar is, as you put it. You know, we haven't essentially dealt with that just yet.
I will say that we are still operating under the interim cannabis regulations. We do have the draft cannabis regulations that will go out to the community for the consultation on that of its enactment. But exactly what you're talking about is like a revocation of the license itself. And I would say that, you know, currently right now we do have a revocation section that talks about breaches, i.e. selling to minors, selling too much, not selling approved product. There's nothing in there that speaks to infractions by the owner or licensee holder themselves, but that is something that we can look at through the full law development process for complaint or examination of licensee themselves. But as of right now, it's not. But I would say that, you know, if a licensee came in and they have a record that clearly demonstrates that they're not going to be an upstanding person that the MCA is comfortable with entering into an agreement with, you know, it is possible that they wouldn't be granted one at that point. So, but they've described what is considered now in the processes that they're using.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, thank you very much, Kylie, and the members of the working task group on that for updating us on the valuable information and work that you are doing on the regulatory system of cannabis in our community. Okay, we're now going to turn to the update on the land claims. There is a PowerPoint presentation as well, so I'll ask that is put on screen. And I don't know, Chief Tim Thompson, I think you're walking us through this presentation.
If there's any further questions, they can be directed to the Mohawk Council, Chiefs, Edward Rompoint, April, or myself, or for technical questions to our Aboriginal Rights and Research Aero office. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Tim. Are there any questions from any of the community that's on this evening's call? Isaac, we'll go to you.
Good evening. Excuse me.
Oh, you muted. Oh, okay.
I recently attended a training event about 3 months ago, and I stumbled upon maybe 300 photos of the construction of the St. Lawrence Seaway. All of these photos are in probably a 1960 format slide. And I also have the projector. I've been sitting on this equipment for probably 2 or 3 months. Who would benefit from this material?
Is there a response from either the technical team or one of the members of council?
Cactus is right there. She's trying to get on.
Yeah, I'm here.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna get video. Hi, Isaac. This is Cactus Cook Sunday. I manage
Oh.
Arrow. If we could take a look at it at your convenience, that would be great. And if you would
Sure.
allow, bring our camera to copy to show our legal counsel.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it was gifted to me. The gentleman that gave it to me, he said he was going to throw it in the garbage. He saw it was native, and this seaway was in our neck of the woods, so he gifted all of this equipment to me. And I thought it would hold some sort of value. I just didn't know who to reach to. I reached to the library, and I didn't get a response. So I was like, well, somebody's going to want to take a look at it. I mean, it's part of our history, right?
Definitely. So if you can call the office or email me and set up a time where we could meet up.
Sure. Okay. Yep.
Thank
I can.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, thank you. For
That's all I
that.
have.
Appreciate the offer. Are there any other questions from any members? All right, well, thank you very much, Chief Thompson and the other members of Portfolio and the Aboriginal Rights Research staff for joining us this evening and preparing the material. Okay, we're now going to move along to the Akwesasne Waterways Committee. I'll ask that their PowerPoint presentation please be brought up on screen. And if a member of the committee could please walk us through the PowerPoint. So Julie, I'll send it over to you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. The Akwesasne Waterways Committee was, or I just want to give an update at where we're at. This presentation was prepared by Chief Vanessa, and I'd like to thank her for doing that for us. Part of the committee is Chief Connie Lazor, Chief April Adams Phillips, Chief Carolyn Francis, and myself, along with Chief Vanessa, and also our communications department to help us get all the information out. Next slide, please. So we established the Waterways Committee to address waterway safety issues regarding no wake zones, trespassing of non-members, and safety of swimmers, kayakers, and all Akwesasne enjoying our waters. We were receiving complaints last year about the safety in our waters, as with COVID, everything was shut down and we had many boats and people on our rivers. So part of it was what we reviewed was having the no wake, or having the laws that were going to be presented are, oh my goodness, my sister sent me a text to mess me up, sorry. So part of it was to review the laws that the police would be enforcing, which included the no wake zone, the emergency curfew law, the intoxicant bylaw, the Vessels Act, and the Trespass Indian Act. Next slide, please. So as I said, the emergency curfew law, this law applies throughout the territory to all persons in the territory, whether they are members or not, from its enactment until such a time as the MCA declares resolution, by resolution, the emergency has ceased. The intoxicant bylaw, which I mentioned, everyone who is found in the possession of intoxicants within the Mohawk territory of Akwesasne is guilty of an offense punishable on summary conviction and is liable to a fine of not more than $100 or imprisonment for a term not exceeding 3 months or both. Next slide, please. No, I did it again. No wake zone. Any person who operates a vessel in violation of this law is guilty of an offense and is liable on conviction to fine not exceeding $1,000 or to community service order not exceeding 100 hours of work. No fishing permits. There are no fishing permits being issued during the state of emergency. No fishing other than members of the Akwesasne are permitted to fish in our waters. Next slide, please. The Small Vessels Act. Any person who fails to comply with or convenes any provision of this act is guilty of an offense and liable on summary conviction to a fine not exceeding $1,000 or to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 3 months or both. And the trespass, which is within the Indian Act, a person who trespasses on a reserve is guilty of an offense and liable on summary conviction to fine not exceeding $50 or imprisonment for a term not exceeding 1 month or 2. So these are all laws that the Marine Patrol could fine community members or non-community members with while out on the rivers. Next slide, please. And Vanessa is going to take over from here.
Thank you, Julie. For our plans for summer 2021, so we have more slow no wake zone areas that will be additional no wake signs, floating buoys, and caution signs will also be installed for this summer. A brochure has been mailed to community that will also be available at local area businesses and marinas, so you'll see them set up there soon. Additional signs will be added to local businesses and marinas as well. And a video that was created last year, we will continue to share that. Next slide, please. So this is just a look at the brochure that was mailed out to community and it will be available. We understand that some of the dates may need to be updated or times, but that is due to COVID. Next slide, please. So again, this is the back and it has all the laws listed. And here on this slide, we have all of the locations that were identified for the slow no wake signs and the other signs for safety for swimmers and kayakers. Next slide. And this is one of the signs that you'll see up at local area marinas. So it's a social distancing when boating. It's just a safety precaution, and the slow no wake signs as well will be out in the community on the waterways. Next slide, please. So just let's keep everyone safe. Youth and new operators enjoying their time on the water. Let's all please practice and encourage safety and think of other boaters, floaters, swimmers, and kayakers while out on the water. Big boats are not the only thing out there, and that's what we're looking out for, is safety for our community members. Next slide. So just some things to keep in mind with the Waterways Committee is that the signs and some of the materials were printed and ordered and delayed due to COVID-19. So some of the dates, times, and recommendations may have been subject to change. Our message still remains consistent to please follow all public health recommendations and keep Akwesasne safe on land and on our waters. And I'd like to thank Chief Julie, Chief Connie, Chief April, and Chief Carolyn, as well as Wahesa Lazor, for a lot of the hard work that went into this committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the two of you and the other members of the Waterways Committee for the work that you've been doing on creating awareness, putting out material, and working with the MCA and various departments to make sure that our waterways are kept clean, safe, and that everybody's abiding by the rules. Are there any questions in relation to this presentation? All right, thank you very much again to you for sharing that information and update with us. Okay, now we're going to turn to our presentation and update from on behalf of the Department of Health. I will ask that the PowerPoint for the update be brought up on screen, and I'll ask Chief Toby to lead us off.
Good evening, everyone. Can we have the next slide, please? And the next one. So this is information about the vaccine clinics. It's pretty much the standard as what we've been putting out there since we started them. You will have to fill out paperwork before you get the vaccine, and you will have to follow community health guidelines when you are at the clinics, wearing a mask, staying 6 feet away, and sanitizing your hands. If you have been advised by a public health authority on either side of the border, please do not attend the vaccine clinic. This is to ensure the health and safety of our staff and community. We have heard of instances where someone finds out or is sick and goes, and then the entire teams have to shut down for 2 weeks and isolate themselves, and which then affects other community members getting their vaccines. So we please just ask everyone to stay home, call and cancel, and they definitely will rebook you. So please ensure that you have your ID with you when arriving for your appointment, and you will have to wait 15 to 30 minutes after to make sure that there are no adverse reactions to the vaccine. And there is medical staff on EMTs on standby as well. Please arrive for your scheduled time. If you arrive early, you will be asked to remain in your vehicle until it's your time. If you are 15 minutes or more late, you will have to call and reschedule your appointment. Fortunately, due to the COVID guidelines and sanitizing, that's the amount of time that they have between each one to ensure that they stick to the schedules. As well, elders who have pre-registered for the vaccine will be contacted to confirm their appointment. And then should a community member or elder require assistance, only one additional person can be allowed entry into the vaccine clinic. However, MCA staff and sometimes chiefs are on hand and available to assist with the clinics and assist with the elders. We have taken that on as well to once they're in the building, we have wheelchairs and everything like that ready for them. And then effective May 12th, we extended Pfizer vaccine to the youth ages 12 to 16, and the clinics have been well received, and a good amount of people have been showing up. Can we have the next slide, please? So here are some of our upcoming vaccine clinics and as well the testing. So the ongoing testing is still at GNL and Ganadago. And then currently we're going to move forward with Wednesday and Thursday for vaccine clinics. Here are the dates: June 2nd, June 9th, and June 10th. Just the June 10th is walk-in. The other ones, please call for appointments. And then after that, clinics will be moving to Ganadago on Wednesdays for future planning, as you know, Fibre is getting going. And in order to set up at the arena, we did have to clear out for the Fibre stuff. And now that we are getting closer and closer and more stuff's coming in, it's just due to space that we have to kind of vacate the arena. However, for community members who cannot cross the border or have to be on the island, the Gawanoge Clinic and the medical clinic will both be available for vaccines as well, so it can be done there. Next slide, please. So here are some numbers on our vaccine statistics. So we have 1978 doses provided, and there are the numbers from Moderna and Pfizer as well. 946 first doses of Moderna, 934 second doses. And then for Pfizer, we have 78 first doses and 20 second doses, and the majority of those have been under 17 years old. The vaccination clinics will be ongoing, and the DOH is utilizing all resources to provide for clinics, as well as still providing assessments, testing, contact tracing, and the vital services like vaccinations, like normal vaccinations for school immunizations and things like that. So our Department of Health has really been going strong and trying to maintain essential services that we have relied on and step up for the COVID-19. I just want to note that a lot of the other health departments and health units have slowed down on immunizations for schooling, and our Department of Health decided that nope, it was a priority for them to protect our children ongoing. So that is why they, you know, kind of just said, we'll figure it out, and they have been, and they've been working extremely hard to get that done. And then also we want to extend a huge namakoa to the Red Cross for their team and their assistance at the May 13th, 14th, and 15th clinic. And I believe there was one 28 days before that. I can't get the dates right. Next slide, please. And then so here is what we received from the SRMT regarding doses of Canadian residents on their side. And so they have their numbers there, roughly 475 from Gawanoge, 540 from Desnaina, 215 from Ganadago, and 197 unspecified Canadian addresses, along with the 1978 that we have done. So sorry, I can't do math real quick, but we are roughly about 22-ish, 100 vaccines. So we are looking at 65 to 70% threshold of adults with 1 dose is what they're saying is needed to reach herd immunity for us to fully look at really opening up the community without restrictions. And currently we are at 56% based on the data that we have received. And I just want to put it out there. We all know how fluid and mobile this community is, and with going back and forth. I myself have used various addresses at SRMT, American to get tested, Canadian to get vaccinated. So let's, this is what we are working with, but we know as, it can be quite difficult to determine things like that within this community and how we like to operate. So next slide, please. So vaccine effectiveness objectives. So the vaccine efficacy and effectiveness and it is against the variants. So we have some data and things that will be coming up on the next slide, and it's just showing that the vaccines have been proven and shown to be highly effective protecting against COVID-19 for people 12 and older. It is important that you receive both doses because long-term protection is not achieved until after the second dose is received and then 2 weeks after that. Immunogenicity data with delayed second dose. Sorry, these are some very high medical terms that I had to get definitions on. They were trying to explain it to me, and I'm not a science major. I'm just trying to pull up the email now to make sure I don't say it wrong or get the wrong interpretation of that. Oh, where'd it go? Okay, so what they sent me was that it's a more complex measure of how the vaccine works and measures the type of immune responses that the vaccine generates and their magnitude over time. So basically, they wait till the second dose, they look at the data and all that stuff, and they're showing just how effective it is over long periods of time. And then information on transmission, they hope to kind of learn from that as well, the transmission from the vaccines and how it interrupts it and slows it down. So next slide, please. So here is just some summaries of the Moderna protection, with 1 shot, 2 shots, and all of that. So basically it's 90 to 95% effective at 14 days after your vaccination. And then there's some variances. So this information came from Public Health Agency of Canada, and it's just some information from studies they've had done. Currently, Canada, because Canada does not produce their own vaccines and has to rely on European and the US to supply them, they have been testing if it is effective with longer periods in between and things like that, and mixing vaccines. They're doing this based on historical and scientific research that shows that longer times between doses and vaccine historically in other diseases has helped and proven greater efficiency. So that's a step that Canada is taking, and this is just some of the information that's been put out to it. I haven't read the full or gotten the cliff notes of the full studies myself, so I don't want to go too much into detail because I may be wrong on my understanding of it. Can I have the next slide, please? And then this information also came from the Public Health Agency of Canada. I did ask for the Moderna information, but it was not included in there yet. So we are going to wait for it to come out, and then I'm sure there'll be a release as well. But it's just showing with the variants of concern how effective they are. So Pfizer has been showing to be 100% in the South African variant. AstraZeneca is 10.4% against the one, that same B1351 in South Africa. And Janssen is 66 against moderate to severe disease. And then just some of the statistics from that study as well. Can we have the next slide, please? Duration of protection. So all of this stuff comes from the trials, again, with more information, 6 months after the second dose. I just want to point out the only reason that they are going to 6 months and not years or anything longer is because that's only how long the vaccine has worked. So as, or has been around, so as time goes on, you know, they'll start to say that it's 9 months, a year, 2 weeks, whatever, after that it's effective. So again, this is just some more of the more scientific data, more of the placebo and just the different things in there. Can we go to the next slide, please? Oh, and that's it for me. So we'll turn it over to Chief April Adams Phillips.
Good evening, everybody. Can I get the next slide? So here's our questions. First question, what are the numbers of reactions to date? Are all our vaccinators tracking adverse events following immunization? And they have the short form, which is AEFI. So here we go. Answer, Public Health Ontario, 3,092 AEFI. Reports received following 7,068,229 doses of COVID-19 vaccines administered in Ontario to date, with only 111 of these reports being recorded as severe. Another answer is AEFI reports are completed by the vaccination team for submission to Public Health Ontario. It is also important to encourage community members to report their symptoms post-vaccination to their local public health unit. I'd like to take note that these questions are coming from the questions and answers. Some of them are coming from the COVID-19 survey. Next question, how long will you feel the vaccine side effects for? Answer, general side effects last anywhere from 24 to 48 hours. Some community members do report it takes a couple of days for arm tenderness to dissipate. Third question, how are you planning to support those in the community with allergies to PEGs that cannot get vaccines? Answer, by promoting vaccination for the community that is eligible. Community immunity protects vulnerable populations and those not eligible for vaccination. We will continue to promote public health measures to reduce the risk. So family members, if you have a vulnerable person, make sure that you're vaccinated to protect them. How long after I get tested do I get my results? Answer, 2 to 5 days in general. If you do not hear from public health, please contact us or follow up. Question, how long is the vaccine effective for? Answer, here's what public health is putting out so far and what we know. They are still working on a lot of the long-term effects of the vaccine research. For more information, COVID-19 real-world vaccine effectiveness, what we know so far, publichealthontario.ca. Question, do I still have to follow COVID-19 public health measures? The vaccine is an additional way to protect yourself against COVID-19 after either dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. You should continue to follow the COVID-19 measures, such as wearing your mask, practice physical distancing, washing your hands, monitor for symptoms of COVID-19, and get tested if symptoms present. Mask mandate. Public health and workplace safety measures will continue to apply across all steps, including maintaining 6 feet physical distance, building capacity limits, and wearing face coverings indoors in the indoor spaces and whenever physical distancing is a challenge. Therefore, we will continue to recommend and follow the existing mask mandate until further notice in accordance with the Ontario Roadmap to Open Guide. Contact tracing concerns. With the warmer weather here, it is very important that the community remains strong in public health measures, including continuation of wearing your mask. The recent concerns are coming from increased
of young children gathering for birthday parties, sleepovers, etc. The social bubble that you hear about and people use to justify gathering with other people has caused a rapid increase in positive cases of COVID-19. Please, for the health and safety of your family, your loved one, remain within your household bubble. This includes not going into other people's homes or allowing others within your home. This is the safest way to ensure that you are not spreading the virus, especially to those that are most vulnerable, as the results may be devastating. If you do travel, please protect the community by quarantine for 14 days upon your return. Yamagoa. Next is Vanessa.
Thank you. I'm going to talk about the importance of pre-registration for COVID-19. Next slide, please. Registration for COVID-19 vaccine. If you are an elder or a member of the community in the jurisdiction of MCA, you can pre-register for the vaccine. Please call 613-575-2341, extension 3219 or extension 3247. For members who reside in Cornwall, please contact the Eastern Ontario Health Unit to get your vaccine right away at eohu.ca. If you are interested in receiving the COVID-19 vaccine, please do not hesitate to call, register, or attend a walk-in clinic or contact your local health unit. Next slide. List of providers and clinics, provider location, EMR data average per month. So we have Dr. Horn on site, home visit. She does consults. She's at CCH. These do not include the long-term care, family COVID-19 assessments, family wellness, and baby immunizations. So she's at a total of 296. Dr. Weiso on site, 101. Nurse practitioner Brent on site, home visits, consults, COVID-19 assessments, and vaccine clinics, 177. Nurse practitioner Fedoric on site, consults, COVID-19 assessment, and vaccine clinics, 122. Dr. Levac, virtual consults, COVID-19, 44. Dr. Torres, remote, virtual via phone, 38. Dr. Saylor, remote, virtual via phone, 51. Dr. Cookson, remote and on site at GEO, long-term care, 49 residents. Dr. Horn and nursing staff moving towards 10 patients per day for PAP clinics, 3 to 5 per day for well baby, prenatal, PAPs, new mom, and follow-ups. KMC, which is the Gawanoga Medical Clinic, nurse practitioner Brent Fedoric and nurse moving toward 7 to 8 patients per day, well baby, PAPs, immunization, follow-ups. Patients with phone consultations in the morning may be seen in the afternoon at the discretion of the provider. Next slide, please. The Healing Lodge proposal. The Healing Lodge will create a peaceful, trusting atmosphere where stress is reduced, where the families are assisted with their needs and given choices in managing their daily living and future planning, and are encouraged to accept responsibility and accountability for their health and wellness. All of these activities will take place in the physical surroundings of adequate space and privacy, and one that promotes healing and wellness. Next slide, please. The Akwesasne Care Center. Work at the Cornwall Care Center includes holistic health and wellness services for the homeless population. Primary care and mental health services will be extended at this center. Ongoing network and partnerships with Cornwall for access of services. The opening date will be in late June or early July. Next slide, please. The mobile clinic unit, the Holistic Health and Wellness Program has strategized and planned accordingly for a mobile clinic that allows our medical professionals to practice direct care to the patient via a mobile clinic. This vehicle is a 2020 Ford Eurovan mobile clinic. It is customized and fully equipped to provide collaborative services such as mental health and addiction services, primary care, therapists, and traditional medicine services. Next slide, please. Nyawakoa and appreciation go out to our healthcare providers, our nurses, our PSWs, and the rest of the healthcare team. All of those that we don't see every day, they work behind the scenes. Thank you. And I'd like to remind community to please be kind and respectful when seeking services and receiving care. Next slide. The RV mobile clinic. So this was the testing unit. It will still be utilized for COVID-19 testing, immunizations, teen clinics, and primary care. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much to the three of you for the update on behalf of the Health Department and providing some important information on the COVID-19, the stats, the vaccination, and as well as the continued service delivery within the Mohawk Council. I see a hand that has been raised, so I'll go to you, Isaac.
Just probably a question for Chief Toby Mitchell. There was maybe 18 or 30 of us vaccinated off territory back in December. Not through MCA, not through the tribe. I did not see that statistics within the slide. Is our vaccinations included in our local data? I'm trying to do anything I can to get us into that 65% percentile.
Thank you for that. I appreciate the help. I really want to see my data. Do you know if anyone called the Department of Health, or has anyone reached out to you guys to get the information?
Not directly as far as like a survey. It was more when the baby was born, are you guys vaccinated? Yeah, and that was it. But I don't know if that yes contributed to your data.
Okay, we will raise that with Health Portfolio next week and ask if it's included, and I'll get back to you. And if it's not, we will work with them to determine a method to capture that data. Because as you say that, I do know of a couple people within the community who went to Potsdam because it was closer to work and things like that. And you're right, they need to be included. So I will double check with them. I'll get back to you. And
I have 18. I could probably, because it'll be department to department, I could probably share those names to cross-reference to keep confidential, if that'll help. But I took care of 18 myself to get vaccinated off territory in December.
Okay, thank you for doing that. And I will definitely reach to talk to health, and then somebody most likely will be reaching out to you. I don't want to say who because I don't know who it would be.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
That's all I have. Yeah.
All right, thank you. April, did you have something you want to add to that?
Yeah, in the past, for community health, you would just submit your information to that and they could put that into the data system. Just call.
As like a regular immunization would have been done, right? Is that?
Yeah.
All right, we'll get that connection to be had, and we can follow up on that. Vincent, I see you have your hand. We'll go to you.
In regards to the Healing Lodge proposal, when is that being looked at to be up and going?
Is there a response?
We don't have a timeline yet. We have to still sit down with Amber Montour on what that exactly looks like. We just wanted to update the community that we're still moving on and working on that proposal.
Okay. And who's that meant for? Like I can read what you wrote, but like what is it for really? A healing lodge. It sounds like it's different from what I think of a healing lodge.
It's geared towards traditional medicines, and when they do their ceremonies, when they're out on the land and for more privacy, and probably other services, but that's what I'm thinking of.
Okay, and then the other question I had was you said the Akwesasne Care Center, that was for June or July, correct?
Yes, that's June or July, the beginning of July.
What this mobile clinic unit, that's up and running already?
The mobile testing unit is up and running.
But you added some other services to it, correct?
Yes, it will be used for other services, which was the initial plan when they had purchased it, to try to utilize that as much as possible so it doesn't stay parked in one area when COVID-19 is over. So there's other things that will be used for, as well as the mobile unit, which is actually a drivable, which is going to be going to communities and providing more services.
But that's not up and running. It's so far, it's mostly for testing.
You're muted, Vanessa.
Oops, sorry. One is the tow behind, which is utilized for the testing. That's the one everyone's seen. And the other one is a new unit that will be a drivable one, which is the van that will be used for different services, and those provided by Holistic Health as well.
So that's going to be like around Akwesasne in the 3 districts, and maybe even in Cornwall for some people.
I have not sure if it's going to be going to Cornwall, but that can be looked into as well.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any final questions in relation to the presentation? Okay, thank you very much for the questions, and thank you very much for the update. Okay, so the last item that we're going to provide an update on, I'm going to turn to Chief Connie on, and that's the Council of Elders.
Good evening, everyone. Over the last few weeks, or if not longer, we've been having a few inquiries with regards to the Council of Elders. If they were active, if the seats were full, if there was a terms of reference, who's their oversight, and who manages the call out for the seats. Research indicates that the Council of Elders was initiated through the membership code. So the oversight belongs with the Office of Vital Statistics. There is a charter. There's 3 seats that are filled by members of the districts, and there's 3 alternate seats that are also filled by members of the districts. The last time there was seats filled was a resolution passed in February 2018, and that had identified another member to the council, and also identified 3 alternates. So my understanding now is that OVS is working to see if the alternates are still interested in becoming members of the council. They hear appeals to the membership board decisions, and they also hear appeals to the court decisions. So that is the Council of Elders and their oversight. There was a question also if there were 2 Council of Elders. I think what became part of the confusion was 2 or 3 years ago, the Youth Council was what do I call, reinvigorated, where they were now becoming more active and they had a call out for members. And at the time, council thought that there could be a elders council, and that elders council was more like an advisory group to council and the youth, working with the youth and bringing forward issues of concern by the elders of our community. That was terms of reference was created, and I believe the council members on that file had looked to be doing call outs over the past year for that. So those are the 2 Council of Elders. One is actually a Council of Elders and one is actually an Elders Council. So that's how they're separated. So I'm hoping that answers the questions that were put forward to us a couple weeks ago. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that update on that. Are there any questions in relation to that?
Abram?
Yes, go ahead.
So how many are actually active Council of Elder members?
You're muted, Connie.
For the membership code?
Well, you said there's only one Council of Elders, really. They take care of membership board decisions.
So that has 3 seats, and my understanding is there's only 1 seat. There were actually 2 seats filled, and recently there was a resignation of an individual. So there's 2 seats that need filling.
And so do you know if Office of Vital Statistics has started that call out or whatever it is they do to get those members?
I haven't seen a call out yet, but I do understand that they are aware of it and they are setting the process in place.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, we'll go to you.
Hi, I have a question for Chief Edward Rompoint, Chairperson of the Finance Committee, on update with respect to FAL.
Hey, Nyawa Paula. So actually currently, as of right now, today, the Finance Committee had a meeting, and one of its main priorities was in regards to getting the charter draft finalized and MCR drafted for it to present to council for review for the upcoming council meeting next week. So that's currently where that is. And what that is what's entailed in that is it's the step we need to establish the new finance committee. So once that passes council's table and pending resolution, then we will look at the next steps on proceeding with establishing that new finance committee. My apologies on myself and behalf of the whole finance committee in the delays and responses and some of your inquiries was primarily due to currently the finance department doing the audits that are part of our reporting periods, as well as getting the rough draft to council for review and comment. And upon completion of the comment period and revisions, we are now in that final step so that council can table it and have the discussion and then move it to that next step.
Thank you.
There appears to be a lot of blockages that are happening. Like I've stated several times, is that I think that law was passed in 2019, and we're just now reestablishing to get that committee going. And council does have a large responsibility in ensuring that all of that is carried out in a timely manner. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. And we have had lots of discussions at council in relation to that. There was a heavy push on the FAL to become a law developed and accepted by the community, which was done. There was a time period for implementation, which we are working through. We do acknowledge that some of the timelines have not been met, but I can assure you that council has had several discussions on this, and the committee is working diligently to ensure that our obligations as an organization are upheld and that the processes are put in place to meet our obligations on that. So the pandemic, as it has disrupted a lot, slowed that down, but the work is well underway at this point. And we expect that hopefully by next Monday that the charter will be, or the terms of reference, excuse me, will be accepted by council, and that will solidify that phase so that then a call out can be done for members to sit on that at abroad. So thank you. Okay, all right, so that concludes our presentations for this evening. I do see a hand there, so I will go to you, Connie.
I meant to ask this earlier, but I forgot. The Health Advisory Board, is it still up and running?
Yes, it is.
And who are the current members of that committee?
Does anybody have that information, one of the health portfolios?
Gail McDonald, Mia Francis, Vanessa and April, can you just help me out? I'm drawing a blank.
Natalie Leaf.
Lori Thompson.
Lori Thompson.
There's 6, I believe. So I think that's the 6 that exist.
There's 4 currently.
4, okay. Yeah, and that information is available on the website as well. So it's listed: Gail McDonald, Lori Thompson, Natalie Leaf, Carol Thompson are who's listed on the board. There are 3 vacancies at this time. Okay. Teresa, I had seen your hand earlier. Was there something you wanted to say?
I was just trying to get your attention for Connie.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to read a resolution for the record at this point to accept and approve the attached general meeting minutes of April 29, 2021. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Julie, second by Tim. All in favor? It's carried. Okay, well, that concludes our formal presentations for this evening. I do want to thank everybody for joining us this evening on May 27th for our monthly general meeting that we've concluded this evening. And I do want to extend appreciation to all of you for joining this evening. And on behalf of myself, thank you. This will be the last official meeting of this council as we head into election season in our community. And so thank you for the honor on behalf of myself and all of our council members for trusting us for the last 3 years to serve you and govern our community. So Yamagoa to all of you, and I hope that you continue to remain safe and please continue to embrace the health safety precautions, and we will continue to move forward as a community regardless moving forward into the future. So Yamagoa, could I have a motion to adjourn, please? Edward and Carolyn. So thank you very much to all of you. Please be safe.